I believe, on what the reality of things are out there in our own neck of the woods, not just the galaxy or the planets around our solar system. This is something that's going on right here on our planet that we can prove video and scientifically. So I think that would be a good thing for us to get involved with if we can, because we need to reach a lot more people than just what we can get on Facebook and what we can get on social media. We need to expand our horizons for the betterment of everyone, I believe, because we don't want a paradigm shift that's going to destroy our civilization, and that's what possibly could happen if we're not prepared for this.
Well, what happens if you uncover something that is so horrible that you wish you never found out? I mean, with so many weird things going on, like with our magnetic field moving like it is, Earth changes, the weather pattern changing, the lack of clean air. It's so many things, like right now in the West Coast, or not West Coast, the East Coast, Midwest, they're getting snow. The weather is changing all over the earth. And are they here to try to stall it, or are they here just to watch what happens, like a death of the world, Are they maybe making a cable video of the death of Earth,
Right.
Maybe it's a film crew from another planet, that's why they're abducting people, putting implants with them to track them, like Big Brother and all that stuff, just to watch what happens to the death of Earth.
Well, the interesting thing that I could respond with that would be the fact that there have been so many ex-military officers and people involved in these Nike missile sites that have been around the United States that have claimed that the UFOs have actually shut down these nukes on a regular basis or a periodic basis, that they seem to be very bent on the fact that they don't want to see the Earth destroying itself. So that's kind of flies in the face of that whole idea too. I think it's a very complicated issue. And again, like you mentioned, if indeed we uncover something that is totally outrageous and is like a death knell for the human race, I think we need to know about that and do whatever we possibly can to survive it. And the human race has been very, very persistent over the millennia in surviving, and I think we probably could if we knew the right information ahead of time.
Well, where do you see your group go? Do you think you're eventually going to get a contract to be on cable TV with a show, or what do you think?
Well, the way things are coming down nowadays, and the fact that we've been contacted by at least 3 different production companies on both the East Coast and the West Coast about these new television series that are coming down the road having to do with the paranormal and UFOs, and they've been asking us to audition for roles in these things. That has just happened since this last summer, and more of these things are on the plans to come out in the future. I mentioned the Paranormal Truckers, show that they're trying to put together from Storyville Entertainment. I would think that if it's happening so quickly, that at one point we will be involved somehow. And I think our crew and our expertise with our scientific consultants, our PhDs and master's level, experts, I think we could provide a pretty good service in that regard, and trying to figure this thing out for the rest of us.
Well, I can say this: one of my friends who's no longer here, Art Bell, told me several months before he passed on. He said, Gary, really concentrate on UFOs, because that is where the future is going to be. It's going to come back. He said the day of ghost hunting shows and all those other things are dying. People are tired of it. They want to know the truth out there. What's going on with UFOs and the cover-ups and all these stories. And you know what? He is so right, because this past month has proved it. My listenership has gone crazy over it. People love it. I get a lot of emails every day and messages on Facebook saying they just love, hearing about UFOs and, getting the stuff they can't find on other shows that they're finding here. And, I'm glad that you decided to come on and be a host on Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. And I'm glad you got a show on us, because, one thing, you can keep it going every weekend.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to do that, Gary. It's been a really great ride here with you on Night Dreams Talk Radio. And as you mentioned, during this last month where we've been concentrating on UFOs specifically, my best listened to show, of course, was last Saturday with Peter Davenport. And James Creechbaum and those guys. We were talking about UFOs the entire show. And it just goes to show you, people really want to know what's going on, and it's still got their interest, after all these years.
Well, they have their choice, okay? They could have been listening to what we've been doing, right? Or they could go on the internet and listen to replays of Art Bell. But you know what? I really, I think things are heating up about UFOs more now than ever. People want to know. They're tired of being, when you're being jacked around. And the people feel that the people who actually have had encounters with the UFOs, they know they're real. Like Timothy Collin and some of the other guests I had, where they had something happen to them which is totally unaccountable. The thing even happened to you. I'm sure it has messed your mind up a little bit thinking about it. And, people want to know. And it's time we get the facts out there. Granted, on Bigfoot, right? It's really hard, it seems, to prove that a Bigfoot exists. Okay? Because how many people have claimed, which including myself, have seen a Bigfoot? Not very many people. I've had experts on my show. They'll talk about Bigfoot, but when you get down to it, have you ever seen one? They haven't been really, been able to say, yeah, I've actually seen one. Or actually, when they have said they've seen one, when I asked them questions, they couldn't back up their claim, on various things. Now, the UFO thing, it's been seen for how long? Since man been able to draw pictures and draw pictures in caves of, men flying on machines and wearing helmets and stuff, tells us, okay, something was here. In God himself, okay, man has always had to believe in God or some type of God, right, to exist. If you took God out of our lives, right, there'd be so many more murders, so many more rapes, so many people robbing other people. There would be no morals around, okay? You always think like your neighbor's wife, all that stuff. We lose all our, what man has needed to have. But when you really think about this, you go back to beginning of man. Man had to believe in like the God of the moon, God of the sun, God of fire, when they discovered fire, right? Or, all these gods, they had to believe in something, right? To worship and to believe in, to keep going on. And now we're down to one God. Now that one God, I am, Protestant. I went to church when I was, a young kid and to a young adult. I'm not atheist by any means, but sometimes I wonder, is God the type of God that we think God is? Or is God maybe it was an alien that, like Stargate, came down on our planet, and all of a sudden people worship them because they had all these powers. They could fly, they could move stuff. The pyramids got built, the Sphinx got built. Funny, the Sphinx got built before humans, arrived, at least the last time around. So it makes you wonder, okay, is God maybe the God we think of, or is God maybe it was a alien or a species of aliens that came down on Earth, and everybody they try to give us morals, in a time when we didn't have morals. And they like love your neighbor, be compassionate, all this stuff, okay? Maybe that was all fed to us by aliens.
Yeah, or as well, maybe God is even bigger than that. Maybe God created the aliens. I have a feeling that God is much, much bigger than what we interpret and see in the Bible. Even it's got to be, a whole idea of God. If there is a God, there's got to be a God of the universe, and not just our planet. So it's fascinating to me as well to contemplate those kinds of things. And I think at one point you're right that we're going to get to the truth, or we're going to get close to the truth, and it is going to be quite a major paradigm shift for a lot of folks.
Well,
including the established religions.
Yeah, but how would you feel religion-wise? Okay, if you one day found out that all this time you've gone to church and prayed to God, that it wasn't God that you thought it was some other thing. I remember when I was a little kid, I asked my grandmother a question. I said, "Grandma, tell me about God." And she said, "Gary, don't even ask that question, because people have gone crazy trying to think about that. There's no answer. There is absolutely no answer. There's no answer about God. We don't have one." But
fascinating.
But when you look at civilization, okay, going back before the Romans, going back to men pretty much started stalking the earth, they had to believe in something. And that's what I'm trying to say is people believe in God. What happens, seriously, when you die, isn't it going to be the shits when you die and you don't go anywhere? You don't go to heaven. You don't go to hell. You just like, when you blow the rod in your car and the motor's gone. That's it. It's over with. I mean, there's going to be they won't be disappointed because they're going to be gone. But I mean, wouldn't it be horrible to find out when you die, that's it? There's no God, no nothing.
Yeah, obviously you wouldn't know that if there was no God, no nothing. You just would cease to exist. But I don't believe we cease to exist. When we're out of this mortal coil that we have, we kind of go on to other things and potentially other places, of course.
Well,
we need to clarify.
Will I get a better job in my next life? I've always wanted to be a shoe salesman.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started out as a shoe dog myself at Nordstrom's back in the old days before I went to law school. Well, I know how you feel on that. It was kind of a fun job.
Oh yeah, Al Bundy, when I used to watch his show,
Yeah, there you go.
In the shoe salesman, right? I did that. I at one point in my life, I don't know if you remember Wigwam department stores.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay, I started out as basically a grunt, worked my way up to assistant manager, and I worked my way up to manager. But, you know what? I remember there was times, some fat lady is fatter than I am even right now, would want help, right? Putting, shoes on, right? And you get down on your knees, okay? And you're not saying, "Hey, will you marry me?" You're getting on her knees and trying to put, she has a size 12 shoe, right? Because that's how fat she is. And she's insisting that she's like a size 4.
Right. I remember those days, So that's where your expertise in human relations comes in real big, boy. And if you're a good salesman worth your salt, you can sell those shoes.
Yeah, but you know what? They usually came back.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes they did.
Yeah. Yep. But regardless how fat and ugly they were, you could say, "Oh boy, those shoes make you look really nice." The same way we used to sell clothing. I think some of our clothing was, we were owned by, at the time, P&H Hearst Company, which at that time owned Kmart back years ago, right? I swear to God, the clothes that didn't sell at Kmart from 3 years prior okay, previous, I should say, they would ship to us and we would sell